guys, welcome to the video. I'm Natalie, and today I wanted to talk about the book Ash Princess by Laura Sebastian. So I'm going to start off with a non-spoiler section and then move into the spoiler section where I go more into depth about things. So first off, the non-spoiler section. This is a high fantasy book set in a land called Astria, and it follows the main character, Theodosia. Basically, she's a princess, and about 10 years ago, these people called the Calabaxians came in. They killed her mother, who was the queen, and they conquered land. They've kept Theodosia alive, but powerless to show they're in control, and to keep her as an example, there's some pretty dark stuff with, like, public lashing and making her wear an ash crown, and they just, like, overall treat her so awfully. They'll punish her whenever any of the Astrians rebel or fight back, and so she's kind of set the symbol that the Astrian people have been defeated. After these 10 years, she's kind of retreated into herself. She doesn't really fight back anymore. She kind of just goes along with the Kaiser. That's the leader now of the Calabaxians and now the Astrians. She kind of just goes along with what he says, keeps her head down, and kind of goes along with the punishments and everything that he tells her to do because she doesn't want to receive more punishments, which is very understandable. But something happens at the beginning of the book, and Theodosia's like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm not going along with this. I'm going to save myself. I'm going to save my people. And that's kind of how the book starts off. This book definitely kept me on the edge of my seat while I was reading it, and I just wanted to like keep reading and keep going because I was so worried like when she started rebelling about her getting caught. And so yeah, it definitely made it a very interesting read. And I thought it was very interesting how they talked about just like the world they're living in and, you know, the Astrians versus the Calabaxians and these things called spirit gems and religious and spiritual things, different traditions they have. And anyway, yeah, I just really enjoyed the whole thing. Even though it's a fantasy, I also thought it was kind of cool that it talked about some real world things like colonialism and imperialism. I thought it was just cool that even though it's set in a fantasy land and it's a fiction book, like, you can still tackle real world things. Anyway, that's the end of my spoiler free section. If you haven't read the book, please go read it and come back to the rest of this video after you're done. But yeah, time for the spoiler section. Yay, I'm so excited. I love talking about books after I read them. I always just like want to rant about stuff and talk about characters and talk about literally every single thing that happened. So I'm super happy to be filming this video. But yeah, let's start off with Theo. She's done bad things, but she's still a good person, but she's also like grappling with that guilt over it all and just like all these horrible traumatic things that she's been through. And I just thought she was a very brave, very strong character. Even though she feels like she's broken and like she's weak, like from reading it you can see just how strong she is, that she's been able to go through all those things and like come out on the other side of it and choose to save her people, even though she could just run off with Blaze. They could have just been like, bye-bye Astria, like let's go live a good life. She was like, no, I'm gonna save my people and I'm gonna stick around, like this is not okay. So that was very inspiring and cool of her. Some decisions I did not agree with. Oh my gosh, how she handled things at the end with Soren made me so upset. So Soren, I really like Soren, by the way. She tried to kill him, she failed. Yeah, I guess she had to give it her best shot or whatever, but I was like, why did you even bother trying to kill Soren? You can see that he's on your side, so what are you doing? But it was fine because he was alive. But then she betrayed him. That made me so upset. So she tried to kill him. He was like, you know, move the blade a little lower, which is dark. But anyway, and then she chose not to do it. But he still trusts her after that. He still goes along with her. He's like, okay, we're gonna run away together. It's fine. Like, I still trust you. I still love you. And then she went and, like, betrayed that, and they got onto the ship, and he literally, like, swam with her and stuff. He could have just swam away without her, but he was like, no, like, I'll help you swim and stuff. And then she calls out to, like, Blaze and them, and they come, and he's literally still just, like, trying to protect her. He's like, if you hurt her, oh my goodness, I'm coming after you. And she's like, until he realizes she is the one who betrayed him. That made me so upset, and just like how she treated him. And then when she said, quote, every time I look at you, I see your father. That was so unnecessary and rude and mean and untrue. Also, okay, I was a little confused about that part because right before that she was like, I can't lie to him anymore. And then she said that. So I'm like, does that mean she's telling the truth? Because is that actually how she feels? Because also like 20 pages ago, she said something along the lines of like, he still sees himself as like his father, even though the more and more I know him, like the less I see him like that. So I'm like, is that how you see him? Is that not how you see him? I was so confused, and I was like, I feel betrayed by your decision to betray him. I understand she has to balance stuff as a queen, which will be interesting to see in the next book, you know, because she's not like the queen, so she still has to kind of like gain people's respect and like show them that she's on their side. I get that, but also like Soren's been there for you, and you just straight up betrayed him. Not okay. But then, at the end, when he's like, I still trust you, please trust me, I thought it was so cute that she said, my feelings for Soren are messy and complicated and hopelessly entangled, but I do trust him, I realize. I was like, as you should trust him. That made me happy. Yeah, anyway, at the beginning of the book, when we first met Soren, I was like, okay, buddy, like, you're kind of a nice person, but I don't think things are gonna work out for you. he proved me wrong. You could just see he was a good person throughout all, which is literally like a miracle considering he's been raised by the Kaiser, the worst human being ever. So like he really showed he was a better person, and I am so pro Soren. But something I kind of didn't like about him was he said he loved her, and he was like, I'm in love with you, and she was like, well, you can't be because I've just been showing like my fake self to you and like putting on this facade. And so you don't actually know me, so you can't love me. And I kind of had to agree with her on that one because I feel like he just hasn't known her true self enough to be in love with her, but also like his actions do show that he loves her just because like how he supported her and stuff. So I mean, I do think he's like in love, but like not like real love, kind of, just because it's kind of been built on something fake. I think it can evolve to become real, but I don't know if you know what I mean, but yeah. And then Blaze. Okay, Blaze I wasn't really as interested in as a love option. I do not know what I'm saying. What is the term I'm looking for? Possibility? Oh, a love interest. Blaze I wasn't as interested in as a love interest, but I did appreciate him like as a friend and a person. I think it's important that Theo has someone who like knew her as a child and has just been friends with her for a while that she knows she can trust and who understands her past and like knew her mother too and stuff. I think that's important. And it'll definitely be interesting to see what happens with him in the future. I'm kind of feeling like things aren't going to work out well for him in the end just because he's going a little mind mad, and so far there's no cure for that, and I kind of feel like don't think finding a cure for that is going to be part of the plot for this, so that would be sad. But anyway, as much as I've talked about their love triangle and the romance, I am glad that the romance didn't take over too much. I felt like there was a good level of it. It was talked about as much as it pertained to like the plot, like trying to get Soren to fall in love with her and stuff, but I also felt like it didn't take too much away from the plot, so I thought that was a good level. Next character, Cress. The whole Cress situation made me so sad. So first it's like, okay, Cress is her best friend. They like call each other heart sisters, which I think is the cutest thing ever. I love that. But then she turns out to be kind of fake. But also, like, Theo's fake. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, because Theo kind of has, like, this facade around everyone, because she can't be like, I side with the Astrians, that'd be treason. So even around Cress, she's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm all for the Calavaxians, and I'm not really Astrian. So that is kind of setting herself up for failure in itself, because, like, how does she expect Cress to understand if she's not gonna, like, try to help her understand until, like, way later, when they're, like, 16 or whatever, and all that stuff's going down? Like, I think it might have been good if she kind of worked in earlier in the friendship and kind of showed her true self more. But also, I just thought it was so sweet that when they were younger, Cress stood up for her against all the bullies and how she, like, smeared the ash into war paint. I thought those things were just super sweet. And I think things just kind of spiraled a little too far out of control. There's all this stuff going on. Theo's kind of in a rush to get out of there and to fix things. And so I think that just made things with Cress worse than they needed to be. Because yes, Cress definitely didn't understand and she didn't handle like her feelings of betrayal with Theo and Soren, that whole situation well. So yeah, Cress definitely isn't perfect. But I felt like things were kind of just like blown out of proportion. I mean, the whole, you should marry the Kaiser, that wasn't okay. But I feel like it could have been worked through. I feel like if they had some time, Cress would have been like, you know what, that was a dumb thing for me to say. I do not want you to marry the Kaiser because that guy is awful and we both know it. And like, it hurt my feelings with Soren a little bit, but like, it's okay. I think if they'd had some time to move on from it would have been fine. But then they didn't. And I also didn't understand why they were all on like the let's kill Cress train, because in the beginning that really did not make sense. Like, there was no reason to kill Cress. And then even once Theo was on board with it, I was like, okay, what is your actual logic here? Like, that after we kill the Thane, Cress is gonna expose it, it's me. Like, everyone's gonna know that it was you, Theo. So, and you guys are fleeing anyway, so why does it matter whether Cress says it was you? So yeah, I didn't think they should have tried to kill her. And the whole, like, her coming back with, like, powers now from the poison, like, I feel like it kind of serves them right. Like, that's why you don't try to kill your ex-best friend. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens now that she has powers. I'm kind of assuming she's going to be one of the villains in the next books, but it's just really sad because I feel like things didn't need to go down that way. A quick quote that made me sad. This is Theo talking, and she says, because I am not her friend and I never have been. I am her pet and she loves me like I'm something less than her. So I do feel like that's a little accurate. But here's the thing. I feel like, based on what Cress has done for her and stuff, and how she's, like, cared for her, I would say her only caring for her as much as a pet, I feel like that's an underestimate of how much Cress cares for her. Because I think Cress has, like, done more and risked more than she would for a pet. But also, like, I kind of see the point of, Cress wants things her way, and if it's not like that, then she kind of abandons Theo and is, like, betrays Theo. But yeah, anyway, that whole sticky situation was sad. Someone else I want to talk about, the Kaiser's wife. Because I was so sad that her whole life was miserable and then she didn't get a happy ending. She fell in love with the Kaiser totally betrayed her and was an awful person, and then she's just like retreating into herself and is like this shell of a person throughout their whole marriage, and then she dies. Like, really? She deserves so much better. And it would have been cool to see like how she sided with Theo and stuff. And then a quote that I liked for this one was, "Her dry lips are still caked in ash from when she kissed my forehead with something resembling love." Oh, that touched my heart. Yeah, a few more things. So I thought it was kind of random at the end that Dragonsbane was her mother's twin sister. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. Some red flags are going up because Blaise told Theo that Dragonsbane looks out for herself, and maybe she's helped some Astrians a little bit, but only when it helps her too. And so I feel like that'll be an interesting thing to see happen. Also, some themes and like stuff I liked. I thought like the spirituality and like the religious side of it was interesting, like the gods and the spirit gems and stuff like that. Theo kind of has a complicated relationship with it because she won't risk using the spirit gems because she is like, no, like I need to end up with my mom in the after, and it's like sacrilege to use it without actually believing in the gods and like being a guardian or something along those lines. So she doesn't want to risk not making it to the after, but at the same time, she's like having doubts about the gods, and she's like, she and like a few others are kind of like, why would they have allowed these things, these like horrible things to happen, and like allowed my mom to be killed and our people to be conquered and stuff. So I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. We see that Theo has like this affinity and like she's drawn to the fire gems, so it definitely seems like she's gonna be super powerful with that. But I wonder how she's gonna get to using it, and like what her relationship with like spirituality and stuff will be, and how she'll deal with that. And then also, I really liked how it showed the power of a name. Because as Thora becomes like Theodosia and Theo, like you see that change in herself. Like Blaise tries to get her to say her whole name, and it's really hard for her because it was literally like beaten out of her. And she was told she couldn't be called Theodosia, and her name was changed to Thora. And so she kind of like sees those three names as like three different parts of herself. Thora is like not her real name, it's the one that the Kaiser gave her that symbolizes her being like weak and defeated and having to do all these horrible things and like not in power, which is why she hates that name. So there's like kind of that part of herself. And then there's also Theo, which is like the name that her friends give her, the name that her father called her, and like people who love her call her. Then there's also Theodosia, who is the princess who's going to become the queen and like the powerful side of her. And so it was cool to see like as she like started seeing herself as Theo and Theodosia, that she gained like more of her power back and more of herself back. Anyway, I could totally talk about this book for like ever. I could literally go through and like read it and like have commentary for every single page of the book, but I'm not gonna put you guys through that. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear your guys' comments down below. Things you agree with me on, things you disagree with me on, just other opinions. I'd love to hear it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.